So this is a video on the Dutch defence, and it starts off with d4. Now e6. The reason I like playing e6 first is because as a French player, if they play e4 now, I can just go d5. It transposes into a French, and if the white player plays d4 to start off with, then if he plays e4 now and d5 and reach a French defence, it's not as likely that he's going to know the French very well, because he's not an out-and-out 1e4 player. So he might have a slight idea what to play against the French, but not in a whole lot of detail. So hence why a lot of people after d4 or d4, e6, they either play knight f3 here, or they continue with c4, which is pretty common as well. And the reason I play e6 as well is to stop, if you play f5 immediately, then you can run into some annoying gambits like e4 or g4 stuff or h3 stuff. There's loads of them. I think e4 is a pretty common one. So yeah, this is why I play e6 first. Okay, so after e6, knight f3 or c4 doesn't really matter. Say it's okay. Let's go knight f3, f5, and now play. The best way to continue is to play g3, knight f6, bishop g2, bishop e7, castles, and now c4. This position can also be reached by this way: c4 first, and then it's just the same ideas, and we reach the same position. Okay, so here after c4, black plays d6, and now knight c3, and now black has a couple of options, so we can either go for knight e4, queen e8, or a5. Now, a5 is my personal recommendation. It's also what Simon William plays, and he's a high rated grandmaster. So I would play a5 here, and it's a good move because it allows you to just to wait on what white's going to do. Because now if white decides he wants to play rook e1, which is a move here, then knight e4 makes a lot of sense now. And just to give you an example, if they take knight back and d5, because we forced the rook onto e1, this f2 pawn is now weak against the rook. So this is definitely a big plus in playing this way. So a5, and also another good move at another good point about a5 is now if they go to something like queen c2, trying to get their e4 breaking, we can just play knight c6. Normally knight c6 is not a good move because it allows d5, but d5 is actually no good now, because normally when white plays d5 we want to meet it with e5. Here we can't, well not yet, but we move our knight, attacking the queen, and now queen moves, the knight's already protected, and so it means we can just play e5, and now we reach this good position. This knight could just move back, and we have this really nice pawn structure, and the queen's going to come over to the king's side, and I really like black's position. Knight can come back into c5, and yeah, this is really good. d5 is not recommended at all here. Whereas say if black decided to play knight to c6 now, this would be bad because now after d5 we're going to have to take or something, and we can't get this e5 moving, because if we move the knight somewhere, then you can just take here and stop us even getting this e5 moving. So that's why a5 is a really good move here. So queen to c2, well here's the options. White can play rook e1, queen c2, and queen d3 are pretty similar. You can play b3, which is one of the main moves. Bishop g5 is sort of like a sideline move. I have had d5 played against me a couple of times, but well, d5 is exactly what black wants. d5 is really not the best, because now it's e5 straight away, and black's got this really nice pawn structure that he wants. So okay, let's start off with b3 here. So after b3, we play our knight into e4, attacking the knight, bishop b2, and now we can take on c3, bishop takes c3, queen e8, preparing to come over to the king side. Okay, now white can either play rook e1 or say queen c2, queen d3, both pretty similar. Okay, say they go queen d3, and against these moves we're still going to go queen h5, doesn't matter. e4, and the important thing, when white plays e4 in the Dutch, you want to either reply with f4 or e5. And obviously e5 is not the right one here because too many pieces on the square, and this is why we play f4 instead. White continues with e5, and then we want to keep the position closed with d5. And the play is going to continue here, something like bishop d2, attacking the pawn. We're going to go g5. We don't want to trade off, and we're going to play c6 to secure this pawn. And then we're going to move our bishop all the way around to g6. And once we get our bishop into g6, we've got a really nice position. And same with rook e1. We're going to go queen h5, e4, f4, e5, d5, and say bishop d2 again. We go g5, and now set up to something like rook c1, c6. And it's going to bring our bishop all the way around to the king side, where it's going to be pretty active. Okay, so going back, that's if they play b3 after a5. See what they play if what we're supposed to do with queen c2. So queen c2 don't want to play e4, and so we play knight c6. And okay, we've already seen that d5 is no good because knight b4, queen d3, b3, and e5. So after the main move here is e4, and now we play knight to b4 first. Knight to b4, and now queen comes back to b1. We take, and then there's two moves, so we can either play d5 or we can play e5. e5 is what I recommend, it's more aggressive. After takes bishop f5, queen takes on b7, rook b8, queen to a7, and now we can continue either bishop e4 or knight to c2. This is really sharp stuff, so analysing this with an engine is probably a good idea, trying to find the best way to continue here. But don't just trust what engine's evaluation says. Probably say it's better for white because white's 2 pawns up, but that's not necessarily the truth, because a human player playing this position could really struggle to defend this sort of position. I'll give you an example. Say if something like this happened, knight c2, the rook's attacked, they might remove the rook, bishop comes into e4 attacking the knight, and then say they try and move the knight somewhere, back to d2, and then we have rook a8, and then the queen is trapped, the queen's lost. So that just goes to show that human could easily make mistakes in this sort of position. Okay, another way to play after e5, because you're threatening to play bishop f5, some players might try g4 to stop this. Against this, you just go queen to, you go h5 first, h3, takes, and now queen d7, attacking this pawn, and if they try to go g5, we just put our queen on f5, and similar stuff going on. So if e5 is too sharp for you, then you can play d5 here instead, and then queen comes back or something, and then you can try to go for c5, or put your bishop on f6, and this is another way to play. You can even take on here, c4 takes, and then play something like c6, a3, knight to d5. It depends what sort of pawn structure you like. Personally, I don't really like this pawn structure because it's this bad placed isolated pawn, but you do get a very nice outpost for your knight, and white also has an isolated pawn. So I don't know, this is another way to continue. So okay, going back to a5. Okay, so if they go rook e1, this is another idea. Then we can play knight into e4. because what white wants to do here is play e4 himself. We don't want to allow that, so we play knight 4 instead. Now if he takes, we can take knight back to d2, attacking the pawn. We go d5. So now we've got a really nice centre developing. And if they play something like e3, then you can play like a solid move, just playing c6 or something. Or we can play aggressive and play c5. So you can play c5 here as well, followed by knight c6. And also there's a similar theme in this line, to try to get your bishop round to the king side, and also get your queen around there too. But this line's not very popular. Hardly anyone takes on e4. I think the most common move here is to play queen to c2, and then after this move we can take on c3, queen takes c3, and now it's a really nice move here, knight c6, e4 was the main move. If they play like d5, this is not so great now, because we can play bishop f6. Now after the queen moves, we can now put our knight on b4. So say they go queen c2, then obviously it's going to be really nice for black after knight b4, queen moves again, e5, and now we've got this really nice pawn structure once again. So I think the best move for white to play here would be, so black didn't get one of these knight moves, so maybe queen b3 might be a good idea. But here it's not so bad because it's a really nice placed bishop. You could probably just take here, or maybe not even take, just play. Even try knight e5, but then it might be some weaknesses against b7 later on. So I was wondering whether maybe I'll play a4 here then. Play a4 first, gets queen off his diagonal of the king. The only other thing about playing a4 now is they're going the queen c2, knight b4, the queen d2, the knight's being attacked, so we can't actually play our e5 move. But I guess we do get some compensation in the fact that this queen's now blocking the bishop, so say we just retreat our knight, and now we're threatening to play e5. If they decide to take, we can take, and now actually black's got a really nice position of these bishops both aiming like this, and a3 is a threat. The knight's going to come back this way into e4, so this is also a good way to play. So yeah, so d5 is not a very good move here. So e4, that's the main move, and after e4 we play e5. So after, like I said, when e4 is played, we either count of e5 or f4. Obviously f4 is not a good move here because bishop can just take it. So play e5, and now it looks like there's too many pieces going to be on this weak e pawn. They take, we take, and now they try taking on f5, trying to win this pawn. Then we have bishop b4, which is just winning the exchange and the game. So they can't allow this, and we're threatening this straight away now. So a lot of players play a3, thinking that stops bishop b4, but now we can just play bishop b4 anyway. And now after takes, pawn takes, we're attacking the queen, and also we're attacking the rook on a1. So the queen has to move, and then we capture the rook, and the queen can't defend this rook. So once again, we are winning the exchange, and this is just much better for black. Okay, so this is actually quite a common variation of this queen c2 stuff. I think the most common one you'll get is b3. If someone plays something like a3 against you, it's like another sort of sideline, with the idea of going rook b1, b4. It just wastes a lot of time. We can just get on with our plan. Queen e8, say they go rook b1 now. Queen h5, b4, we can take and take. Now we can start putting our knight in on e4, attacking this knight. If they take, we could take, knight back, d5, and black's got a really nice position. The queen's already out, attacking the king, and it seems pointless putting a rook here now because it's not even aiming at anything. These pawns are not going anywhere, and now we actually have a really nice file for our rook to go down. So I wouldn't really recommend this either for white. Black's also threatening knight c6 here, where he's going to be attacking both these two pawns. So say might have to play e3. Now you've got to always be careful when white plays e3, not to miss that the queen is always attacking our queen. And normally I do not, I hardly ever swap off queens. I always put my queen back on h6. And the reason I like putting my queen on h6 is because we don't want to allow white to break with f3. If white can break with f3, then it sort of messes up our pawn structure. If we can keep him this really weak, these weak light squares around his king, that's going to be really good. Obviously f3 is no good now because we can take on e3 of check. So white might have to play something like queen e2 to try to prepare something like f3. We have a couple of moves here. We can come around the back, cause problems, or develop our knight. Try to get the bishop around here quickly. There's all sorts of things that black can do. But yeah, this a3 stuff is not that popular either. You hardly ever get this. And so that just leaves us with bishop g5 to cover. So after bishop g5, what white's trying to do is they're trying to take. So say we just play a nothing move like king h8. They're going to take, and play e4. So I'm going to take over the center. So the move I reckon against bishop g5 is knight, just simple knight pd7. Because now if they capture, we can capture back, and we've still got control of the e4 square. And if they go rook e1, we can put our knight back in e4. And now it's just a very similar position to as before. Actually, I think this is even better for black because we've got the bishop pair. So white normally doesn't take the knight, and if they play something like rook e1, it just sort of transposes. You can play h6, kick the bishop, and bring the queen around. And yeah, basically when you're learning classical Dutch, it's just two common themes you got to remember. Just bring your queen around to the king side. All the moves are pretty similar. You have this structure to start off with, and then you're always looking to play e5 when you can. So like now I'm preferring to play e5 in this position because my knight is protecting the pawn. And also the other thing to remember is when they go e4, we either reply with e5 or f4. If we don't manage to reply with e4 to e4 with e5 or f4, then we can get crushed really quickly. Let's see if I can get an example of that. So what's a good example? Let's think about this. Okay, well in the b3 line we see that after this we have to reply with f4, and we keep the position closed like this. If we don't reply with f4, then white's is going to take on f5 and open up the e file, and this is not what we want. We want to get a nice attack against the king and then start launching g5. So that's important to remember, to play f4 there. And an example of playing e5, it's like say in the queen c2 line, play like this. Actually not queen c2, let's play in the rook e1, knight e4, queen c2, takes knight here. So now when they play e4, we reply with e5. We don't reply with e5, even though, well, it looks risky at first if you didn't know that there's going to be these bishop tactics at the end. If you don't reply with e5 or f4, or f4 is really bad here, so don't do that. But if you don't reply with e5 here, and say you played, okay, say you wanted to get your queen over to the king side, then now they can, white's going to get a really good position on something like d5. You may move your knight over here, and now they can start taking things and taking here. And now they've got a really nice file for their rook, and the bishop can start coming out. There's pins all over the place, and black's, it's not the position black wants. There's also going to be threats to come all the way down this way as well. So yeah, that's exactly what black doesn't want to happen. And so the key concept is when you see your opponent preparing e4, you need to make sure you're ready to counter with e5. So here we see that that's queen c2, knight takes, pawn, queen takes. We can see that e4 is what white wants to do now. After knight c6, we're ready to counter e4 with e5, and after takes, we have this nice bishop b4 tactic. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in the Dutch. And if you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll try to get back to you shortly. I'll see you next time.